something different all the time on my my videos, and I put a lot of these videos up on X and YouTube. I used to do it on TikTok before they suspended my channels. But I'll listen to Richard Spencer and pretty much what Jared Taylor and Nick Fuentes basically talk about how superior white people's civilizations were superior, and how Europeans somehow basically went out of Europe and basically subdued the world of all the people of color who they consider primitive. And they'll always get these notions that somehow when they came to these places were a whole bunch of savages living uncouth lives, living primitive and shit like that. But the reality is, those places that they went to, they found out that those places was way more advanced than them. Those civilizations were using mathematical chemistry like the Dogon. The Dogon civilization have mathematical equations that even the Europeans can't even. They are baffled by the mathematical equations that the Dogon have. And the Dogon say they got their civilization from ancient Kemet and Nubia. So they couldn't pull these people in like the Shanghai, all those civilizations like the city of Benin that had a wall that was longer and bigger than the Great Wall of China. The whole city of Benin had a raw sewage system. They had a raw sewage system. They literally had toilets and shit in their motherfucking houses. They had a toilet and shit where they used the restroom and the water flushed down through an underwater sewage system and go to a motherfucking waste area where the waste run off and it don't destroy and pollute the environment. They had this in the city of Benin. While during that time in the 1800s, Europeans were still didn't know what to do with all the waste, the shit and piss. They still used to piss and shit in buckets and shit. And during the 1800s, and they came up on the city of the Greater Zimbabwe and look at the structure, how the infrastructure, how it was laid out. It blew their mind. For somewhat primitive black people to have this high advanced civilization, they had to destroy it. First, they took the pillars of Great Zimbabwe, those big bronze pillars they had hold the buildings up. They stole them and took it back to the UK. So believe me, all the history in them European history museums, they got artworks from civilizations that not even European as bragging rights that they stole. In the Museum of London, in France, Paris, they done stole a lot of history, but they'll make you think that Africans haven't contributed shit to the world. That's why they work so hard to remove Egypt, ancient Egypt or Kemet, from Africa, remove Egypt from Africa. But then now they finding out that Egypt go further back, and not only back, it goes more, so the farther south you go and you go into Sudan, it's the same civilization, but in Nubia is older. So they always get this prevailing notion that the Egyptians founded ancient Kemet and they came from the Levant. They ain't what they said in their hieroglyphs in writings. They came from the south, not from Lebanon. They intermingled and intermarried with those people from the Levant, but they ain't where the Egyptians came. But they always want to promote this narrative of somehow a Semitic Egypt. Like there's a whole bunch of people that came from the Levant and went all the way down into Sudan just to create a civilization where it was people already there. So this is a narrative that they always created, because the simple fact is they found out that really white people, that the Greeks and Romans got all their ancient Egypt, all their knowledge from the black Africans out of Nubia, out of Kemet. That's where they got all their mathematics from. And everywhere, another thing too, everywhere this white man was going, he was seeing people of color. Seeing people that were, whether it be in India, whether it be in Indochina, everywhere that white man to go, he'll see all the people of color from Latin America, Africa, the Middle East, India. He'll find all these people of color, but he the only one felt that he wasn't. He felt he was a minority of people on the planet, and they were surrounded by people of color. So this is the reason why white supremacy is pathological, because it's about controlling and maintaining and dominating over all the other people, and not only that, taking their resources to enrich themselves. That's why you had colonialism and slavery, because they want to not only colonize, but they want to enslave. You dig? This was built up white supremacy. Now, modern days, white supremacy is too expensive. But yeah, that's why the Europeans set off in mass subduing and conquering everybody, and stealing and taking their resources. And they run around here acting like they built some of the greatest civilizations in history. They didn't even recognize the Greeks and the Romans at one time, because the Greeks and the Romans were considered Southern Europeans, and they didn't accept them. They just started accepting them until eventually they started looking at the Roman Empire. They wanted to grab on to Greece and ancient Rome. So, like I said, in medieval Europe, they were living like fucking hell before medieval Europe. The Germanic tribes were butchering and slaughtering each other until the Romans went up that way. The Romans went up there and they lost two fucking legions in the Rottenberry Forest up there in Germany. Only one that went up there and conquered that shit was the General Marcus Aurelius. Marcus Aurelius conquered that shit. He was the last great Roman general. So the Europeans, the Romans went into Britannia. At the time, they called it Britannia. That's where the British Isles got their name from the Romans. They called it Britannia. But I know a lot of y'all ain't really interested in history like that, but I just thought I'd throw this little history out here, because I'm a history buff.